Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the case of Kelly Rothwell. She went missing. Her case is still unsolved. A lot of people have a lot of suspicions about it, of course. It was suggested by one of you guys, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have. And of course, if you have any more, please let me know. Kelly Lundy Rothwell was born on the 1st of October in 1976. She was originally from Colorado, and she was just such an amazing, loving person. She was always really happy, always really joyful. She brought a lot of just bright light to everybody's life. And then one day she decided that she was in her 30s, I believe about 30, I don't know, sort of early to mid 30s at the time, and she decided that she'd had enough of Colorado Springs. Not that it was a bad place, just that she no longer wanted to live there. She wanted to make the move to Florida. She wanted to move to the Gulf Coast, and that was where she just wanted to carry on her life. I don't know what made her make that decision, but it was pretty spontaneous by, you know, all accounts of it. And she was just went for it. Why not? She was really looking forward to it too. You know, whenever she talked about it, she had like a glimmer in her eye and things like that. You know, it was a very exciting time for her. She met one of her really good friends there. One of her best friends. She was called Donna. She was in this meditation circle, and from the moment that they introduced each other, you know, they sparked off an interest, and they just became really close friends after that. And then her move was made even better when she also met a man. He was a very charming, attractive man. Well, at least to Kelly anyway. She found him she was infatuated by him. He swept her off her feet. Yeah, that's it. And at the time he was actually on vacation in Florida. I believe they met at a restaurant or something like that, and he offered her some. She was alone and he offered her something, and then they just sat next to each other, and that was that, you know. This guy was called David Perry. He was 46 years old at the time. He was from New York and was a retired corrections officer. Now, Kelly did have a sister called Laura, and not long after this, you know, Laura did actually meet David, and she really liked David. You know, first impression, she thought he was a really nice guy and a really good fit for her sister. But there was some issues with David, and, you know, a lot of issues, and he was very, very controlling man. Sadly, in cases like these, you know, you hear it a lot where they form a relationship and then they find out who they truly are, which is just absolutely breaking. Oops, gosh, I'm a mess today. But yeah, he also had what people thought was like a bit of an obsessive compulsive disorder towards cleanliness. He was kind of obsessed with it, which is not a bad thing, I'm not saying that, but like, whether it was OCD or not, I don't know whether you can actually categorize it as that. He was like, everything had to be in its place, everything had to be spotless kind of thing. And on one occasion, Lauren actually came down and stayed with the couple. They moved in pretty quickly as well, that's what I forgot to mention. They moved in together, you know, and started living together and formed their relationship. But like I said, he needed everything to be clean. And Lauren ended up staying down there. I'm not sure where she stayed down with a fella and family or whatnot. But Kelly was adamant that they cleaned up spotlessly after themselves and even did like spot checks on it all, because David liked it a particular way, and I don't know. It kind of seemed weird to a sister who wasn't, not saying she was unclean, but she wasn't as clean as and obsessive, obviously, as it seems like David was. It seems like she was just doing it so that David would not be, like, unhappy about it, if you get what I mean. She wasn't acting like a normal sister. She was began constantly to worry about what David might think and all things like that. And just, that was her entire thought process, you know. She wasn't really herself anymore. He was very controlling. He began to isolate her from her friends, her family. He began reading her emails. And she just became almost a completely different person. And it's because she was obviously under his thumb. She was doing everything to try and please him, and who knows what was happening behind closed doors. I mean, he was already isolating her and things like that, so obviously that's really not good at all. The relationship did last 3 years. Personally, don't know how she put up with it for that long. I know some people, I'm not trying to diminish her, people feel like they can't get out of relationships like that and get stuck, and it's just really, really sad when you're in a situation like that. But yeah, Kelly, after 3 years, decided that enough was enough. She wasn't going to put up with it anymore, and she wanted to leave David. And this was about the time as well that she'd also made this other big life decision, that she decided she wanted to become a police officer. She'd actually enrolled in the police academy at that time, so she was happy in her career choices and everything she was doing on that aspect of it, just not in her home life and her relationship with David, which is obviously why she decided that she didn't want to be with him anymore, because she just wasn't happy with him. And leaving David wasn't going to be as easy as all that, as you can imagine. On one occasion, she had gone out with Donna on like a girls' night out. Now, bearing in mind, David supposedly didn't even know where Donna lived, her best friend, and she was constantly getting messages from David. So she was supposed to be on this really good fun girls' night out, you know, sort of don't really look at your phone, ignore it. But he was constantly going off like every 2 minutes, and the messages were all from him. And of course, at that time, they weren't together. So she's like saying, I'm done with you, David. I've had enough of this. I'm sick of it. You know, all of those things, because they'd split up at this point. One thing that she hadn't actually told him yet, though, is that she had already found a new place to live, and she was gonna like leave him and then move in the very next day. So also, one thing that Donna mentioned was that Kelly was very worried about how David would take it. Not necessarily thinking he would do anything to her. From what I got from it anyway, just emotionally wise, like she didn't really want to hurt him, I suppose you could say it like that. Then it turns out David was actually, I think they were going to get in a taxi or something, or they went outside for some reason. David was outside in his car, and they get in Donna's car, and Kelly says, lock your doors, please. And she's like, why? Well, that car behind us is David's, and he's sat in it watching us. And she's like, oh my God, how does he even know where I live? Because she didn't know where she lives. So he must have followed her there. And then he's like stalking her. So obviously Donna's like to Kelly, you know, this is not normal. It's not a good situation to be in. And you really, really need to get some help from someone, because he is now stalking you and me, apparently. So basically, she drove off, and they did lose David in the traffic later on, which made them feel a lot better. And then obviously later on they eventually ended up back at the house. They had thought that David had gone home at this point, but he wasn't. He was back at the house, and he was sat in the car waiting with, I think he had like a black t-shirt over the windscreen, maybe to try and cover him up, I don't know, but she knew he was there. So she was like, I've had enough of this. She gets out the car, she stomps over, swings his door open, and just starts having a go at him, saying like, what the hell are you doing, Dave? Which is a normal reaction to somebody just following you around and waiting outside for you. Of course it is. And he's going on saying, look, I love you, I'm going to change, I promise. All of these promises that a lot of them are always empty. And she's like, no, it's over. I've already told you, we're done. And that's that. And then Kelly was upset that night. She tried to hide it, tried to brush it off as not really anything, but she was upset, and Donna could see that she was upset. And then the next day, she was going to go around to the flat to basically tell David that she's leaving, she's moving out, and she's gone kind of thing, probably collect all the stuff. I don't really know what it was, whether it was specifically to see him or like to move her things out, because like I said, she was supposed to be moving in the next day. But Donna didn't want her to go alone. She wanted to go with her. She's like pleading with her, please let me go with you. However, Kelly is like an independent woman who had just completely had enough of David, and he's like, no, I need to do this by myself. I don't want you to come with me. I'll sort it out, kind of thing. And off she goes. Now, very uncomfortable position to be in, but there you go. So that's that. Kelly goes off. Donna is obviously worried, but, you know, she said don't follow her, so she doesn't. Later on, she actually gets a text off of Kelly, and it doesn't seem like it's off Kelly. So you know how you know your friends write things in a certain way? That wasn't how Kelly would have written it. So she really does believe that possibly David wrote it or somebody else. It wasn't, she doesn't think it was Kelly at all. And that worried her straight away. Then she gets a call later on from somebody who was supposed to actually meet up with Kelly, and they tell her that she'd never turned up. And that was not normal, obviously. And so she was terrified then. She figured that something horrible had happened to Kelly on going to see David. So she calls up the police and things and reports a missing person, or tries to get a welfare check on the flat because it's not like Kelly to miss these things. And they go inside. The place has recently been cleaned. It is spotless. It smells of bleach. But there's nothing inside to indicate that anything had taken place. No damage, no blood, no nothing. However, if you recall, David was known to be quite a clean person, sort of on the border of obsessive of it. So, you know, you kind of expect his house to be like that, really. They were pretty keen on speaking with David, of course they were, but they couldn't actually find him. And then he makes this call to, so it was a cadet class that she was supposed to go to. Obviously, she enrolled in the police office academy. I've probably said that wrong, you know what I mean. And she'd missed the class, which was not a thing that she would do. So he actually rang up and was like, is Kelly in class? And they're like, no, she didn't turn up. So a lot of people have speculated that's him trying to cover up his tracks. I'm not saying it is, just what people are thinking. When they finally did get hold of David, he was so he'd been avoiding them. He was very erratic, very sort of evading the questions and things like that. And he also couldn't wait to hang up the phone to that police officer. Obviously, her family are informed. Oh my gosh, stupid mic. Her family are informed that she's missing. Lauren rings up David immediately because obviously he is her partner and she wants to know what else is going on. She rings him and tries asking him questions, and he says something about, isn't she in Utah or something like that, and like pretty much quickly hangs up. And from that moment, that is when Lauren believed that David actually had done something to her sister. And then he hired an attorney pretty much straight away and just refused outright to speak to any law enforcement. Obviously, the police carried on looking into it. They did find Kelly's car. It was 2 miles away from the house, and in a dumpster not far from the car, they also found all of Kelly's sort of cadet things, assignments and things like that she was going to take with her. And those were in a bin close by. So although police didn't really have any evidence to say anything against David, they didn't have a body, they didn't have anything to say that Kelly was deceased at all, they believed that she had been murdered, and they did also believe that probably David was the culprit. The sad thing is, obviously I'm not accusing him, this is what the police actually do believe, or did believe at the time. They didn't have any evidence against him, and they didn't have enough to charge him or anything like that. And also, something I didn't mention, he packed up all his stuff and he just moved to New York. 2 weeks before she actually went missing, he'd cancelled his gym membership. And then, obviously, Kelly's gone, he's gone missing, he's moved away, and not long after she'd vanished, he started a relationship with somebody else. Strange. Or what? I think it's strange. He'd actually been in contact with her online. I believe that's how they met. And this was before Kelly actually went missing. They got married, and I believe it only lasted like 4 or 5 months, something like that. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to go into the ins and outs of it. He was actually arrested and charged for other things. Nothing with regards to the disappearance or potential murder of Kelly Rothwell. But there were things like insurance fraud and grand larceny or something along those lines. I believe he did about 2 years total for all of those. But there's just nothing. There's no evidence against him with regards to Kelly. In August of 2011, David was officially sort of put out as a suspect in Kelly's disappearance. But as of now, her case remains unsolved. And although foul play is suspected and there are some strong suspicions against David Perry, there's no evidence, there's no nothing to tie him in. There's absolutely nada in this case, sadly, which utterly breaks my heart because, I mean, he was very obsessed with cleaning. If Kelly went round that day, told him that she was leaving, he killed her. This is just a theory, by the way. I'm not saying that it's the truth, but I'm just saying it's an if, right? Okay, and it's my questions with regards to this case, okay? If he did kill her, cleaned it all up meticulously, spotlessly, like he always does his house anyway, got rid of her remains somehow, somewhere, buried them, who knows, put him, put him in the Gulf, maybe, because that's actually something that Donna mentioned, which I forgot to mention, that he literally said to Kelly, if you ever leave me, I'll put your body in the Gulf and no one will ever find you. So yeah, so maybe that's what he did, who knows. But yeah, he's out, he's still living his life. If he was the one that did this to her, will there ever be any evidence to say that he did it or not? I'm not saying he did, but it's just frustrating if he did. You know what I mean, don't you? Okay, yeah. I'm just going to leave it there, though. Her case is unsolved as of the moment. I hope to and pray that one day some evidence will come forward. Whoever did this to Kelly just needs to be put away, because she just literally went round to her ex's house and then vanished off the face of the earth, and nobody has a clue what happened to her. So there you go. But yeah, that's the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Kelly Rothwell. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye.